welcome you all to South Asian Climate Dialogue, South Asian Environment Dialogue to be specific. And this is the show where we'll be discussing on various climate, environment, and related issues in South Asia, pan-South Asia, and sometimes even beyond South Asia. We know this is a region which is extremely vulnerable to various environmental and climate problems, and now we are having COVID along with that. Today, in the first episode of South Asia Environment Dialogue, we'll be exactly having the topics, which is COVID versus climate action. And we have a wonderful panel, my all good friends to be part of this panel. Let me introduce the panel to all of you and then we'll start rolling. I have with me Harjeet Singh. Harjeet is the global lead in climate change in ActionAid International. I have with me Sanjay Vashisht. Sanjay is the director, Climate Action Network, CAN South Asia. I have with me Dr. Golam Rabbani, who is a climate expert associated with BRAC, Bangladesh. And I have my good journalist friend, Amar Guiro from Karachi, Pakistan, a journalist who have been covering environment and climate change for a long, long time. Thank you all for your time being part of this program. Next 40 minutes or so, we'll be trying to dissect this particular issue, which is, I think, a very critical issue, climate change and COVID. Let us start, before we come to climate change, before we come to environment, let's start how COVID is, as of now, scenario of COVID. Let me share some data with you, which I just collected from the global network. In the South Asia, I find that, as usually, India is the kind of elephant in the room, with having about 70 lakh COVID patients as of now. 70 lakh, that is 7 million. And the number of deaths is more than 1 lakh, 0.1 million. But Bangladesh and Pakistan are also having quite a significant number of COVID patients. I find that Pakistan is having about 3.2 lakh COVID patients as of now, as of today evening. And Bangladesh is having 3.8 lakh, and while Pakistan is having about 6,500 deaths so far from COVID, Bangladesh is having 5,500. Afghanistan has a few, Bhutan very, very few, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and Nepal very few. So it is very quite clear that the COVID impact is primarily in South Asia limited to India and as well as Bangladesh and Pakistan. So let me start with Sanjay, if I can. Sanjay, what is how COVID is in India? Are we seeing any down, or it's still going up and up?
Well, Jayanta, I think the trend shows so far the higher the density, more of the cases. As your data already indicates that it is the outbreak is very high in India and Bangladesh. It is not much in Pakistan. Pakistan has handled it very nicely. The trend so far in India is it is still going up. And total calculations is that if 100 people are tested, then 5 will be infected. So it's around 5% infection rate. And the mortality rate is around 1.5 to 2% in various stages. So it is not that lethal, but it, of course, COVID certainly has various implications, and it is changing its impact. So let's see how it goes. We haven't reached peak yet.
Okay. Very quickly to Golam Saab, that what is the scenario in Bangladesh? Sanjay mentioned about Bangladesh. How is the scenario out there?
Thank you so much, Jayanta. I think official statistics, that indicate that the trend is slightly decreasing. But I think I would make my opinion, bit beyond this official statistics, because there are some debate that the incidence is much higher than the official statistics. But if you are absolutely right that the trend is slightly decreasing now in last five weeks. Yeah.
Okay. In South Asia, always we have that official versus unofficial statistics. We have to live with that. Now, Amar, Pakistan, very strangely, is being seen as one of the countries which could really control so far COVID to a reasonable extent. And considering the infrastructure and other issues that Pakistan has, it's quite a revelation. So how is Pakistan on COVID?
Look, Pakistan, when it was, I mean, there were many cases, and like in other parts of South Asia, Pakistan was shut down for many months. But you know, Pakistan has a large number of the pilgrims who are going to the different parts of the world, like to the Saudi Arabia, or the Shia pilgrims going to the Iran, Iraq, and other parts. And the Hindu pilgrims are going to the India, and many they were stranded in India. So when we came out of the lockdown, so when we opened the border, so these pilgrims started pouring into the country, back into the home.
Okay.
So again, we have the rise of the cases. Recently, we have the number is going up. So this is the current situation in Pakistan of COVID-19.
Okay, we are not going to the COVID politics as of now. So that's a different ball game altogether. But Harjeet, we have heard broadly about the situation in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Now, coming to the climate change, there are two theories that one group of people are saying that yes, due to COVID, the environment has improved, the climate emission has been reduced to a certain extent. So far so good for the COVID. Another theory is that once COVID hopefully goes away, the politicians across the world will try to neutralize whatever the impact of COVID had, and then will go overburden. In fact, I just can quote from one Bill Gates. Bill Gates is saying that despite 6 million people, so many millions being affected and 6.6 million being dead throughout the world, hardly 8% emission reduction has taken place. 92% is still business as usual. And also the BBC report is saying, considering the two observatory, Hawaii and Tasmania, the carbon dioxide level has actually gone up from around 410.11 to 414.15. And if you consider the month of July to month of June, the month of July, the emission was 17% down, but June is around hardly 5%, and they expect when the year will end, it will be around 4%. So nothing very significant. What's your take on that?
No, absolutely. You know, at the face of it, Jayanta, as you said, we have seen clear skies. We have seen very calm days. We have seen much cleaner rivers and oceans. Because many of the activities that were happening in full swing and the way we were polluting the environment directly, that definitely stalled for several weeks. And that did have an impact. But the reality is, and exactly the way you quoted the data, in fact, politicians are now using this as an opportunity to relax environmental norms and destroy environment much faster, and in some cases in a much more structural manner. You know, by relaxing these norms, like, you know, the debate that we have been having in this country on environmental impact assessments, and on how the so-called desperate measures are going to give much more space to industry to continue polluting in the name of generating jobs and you know, keeping people employed. I think so. That's another reason why the gains that we did make in the initial phase, we are going to lose everything, not only in the next few months, but in a much longer manner, because some of the structural changes that are being done into the environmental policies are going to be very, very significant. And many politicians around the world and in our region are using it as an
Welcome you all to South Asian Climate Dialogue, South Asian Environment Dialogue to be specific. And this is the show where
action, we have like the billion tree tsunami.
Advocacy and fossil fuel
summit that they had with China, climate was very much on the agenda. In fact, that pushed China to come up with this target. So I would not say that the trend is all over, where some countries are using it to their advantage to dilute environmental norms, but there are some countries and regions who are still holding the fort because they know that if they don't fix climate, it's going to affect their economies in the longer term. And some would like to take advantage of the new green economy that is emerging. But that doesn't leave us with a very, you know, hunky-dory situation when many major economies is relying on fossil fuels and are relaxing environmental norms. I think that's where we really need to worry. And one more thing, if I want to bring in something that has been very exciting over the last 2 years, has been the young people's movement, right at the forefront on challenging politicians. Now with them, they being confined to their homes, and so the whole pressure that should have come by now, as we know this year, countries are supposed to revise their climate action plan by end of the year, and that pressure would have worked immensely. That pressure is no more. You can't compare online protests with the real ones on the ground, where you see hundreds and thousands of people protesting and getting that attention.
But I would like to congratulate EU here for making it 60%, which is a good move, though our expectation was 65%. So there's a hope.
There's a hope. No, the hope has to be there. Without hope, we will not survive. But what Harjeet just pointed out, in Madrid, perhaps all of us were there, we all saw that momentous and I think the historic movement of the young. You said, Harjeet, young, but young led it. But I think all people of all ages and everybody, I find the kind of French people, the Spanish, the German, and who was not there in that, thousands and thousands and millions that they just walked. Unbelievable scenario on that evening, and that really showed the people concerned about climate change. Now, taking cue from what Harjeet has said, my question to both Golam Sahib and Amar is that both countries, all countries are now having indices. We have their own indices and then indices or whatever you call it. Now, do you feel that this 2020, we'll be discussing it the later part of the program, is the year when Paris Agreement was supposed to go on ground? Unfortunately, 2020 is, as of now, is just being paused. But what do you feel? 2021, Glasgow COP26, hopefully it will be held on time. Countries, Bangladesh, whatever the Bangladesh committed and whatever the Pakistan committed, are they going to stick to that commitment? First, Golam, and then Amar.
Yeah, thank you, Jayanta. I think we just had a meeting on NDC review yesterday. Among the different stakeholders, and the climate vulnerable countries, they are expecting to submit this review version of the NDC, by 31st December this year. So that's one decision. But let me just share at least 2-3 good things that happened in Bangladesh during these last 6-7 months in relation to climate change. The first thing is, you are quite aware that Bangladesh, about the Bangladesh Climate Change Trust Fund, since 2010, and then the government has allocated 50 crore BDT to 100 crore BDT. So our expectation was like, this might be decreased this year, but this did not decrease. So they allocated again 100 crore BDT, which is about 12 to 13 million US dollar. And the second good thing has happened. Recently the Prime Minister just inaugurated the regional office for Global Commission on Adaptation, which is good thing that we feel in Bangladesh. And the third thing that has happened, Prime Minister, recently on 25th September, in the 75th UN General Assembly, she proposed, several good points. And one of the major good points is, there were 5 proposals actually. So one of the major good proposal was rehabilitation of the climate displaced people in Bangladesh within the country. So that is the 5th proposal that he mentioned. And there are some other proposals he mentioned. The one is immediate implementation mechanism of the Paris Agreement and the promised agreed amount to be disbursed from the developed countries to the vulnerable countries, and the global leadership enhancement. So she asked the global leaders to act on climate change immediately. Otherwise, we might fail in many things. Thank you so much.
That's good. But as you said, earlier kind of discussion that it seems to be taking the kind of pedal off, take a bit of a steam off due to COVID. Amar, what is the scenario Is Pakistan going to stick by to the INDC, or will be pushed back, will ask to push back? What is Pakistan's scenario as of now? Amar.
Means the Pakistan, whatever they have submitted to the Paris Agreement, there were a few good promises that they made on this platform. But at the same time, when it comes to introduce some green initiative like the green transport or something else, but as I already said that in Pakistan we have political turmoil, so the one green line, blue line, or the transport that one last government has initiated. So this government is delaying that one. So we don't see means that they whatever they have promised to the world, they are going to like means they made the promises to the Paris Agreement, but at the same time they came back and they opened the third coal power project under the CPEG. This one Chinese CPEG, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So I don't think Pakistan is going to serious whatever the commitment they made on the Paris Agreement platform.
Okay. Sanjay, India's position, what do you feel that India, what India will take on the Paris Agreement and its commitment?
Well, we were hoping that India will increase its NDCs this year. At least that's what civil society has been hoping. Within India, I think what India committed globally, they already confessed that we are going to achieve it way before the 2030 deadline. And in addition to emission intensity reduction of 30-35% or 40% electricity to be produced from non-fossil fuel by 2030, or 2.5 to 3 billion ton CO2 equivalent of zinc to be added. These are the three major commitments. I'm only talking about mitigation here because I think that's the crux. That's the expected, outcome by the global community from India. So on these three fronts, India will achieve its target, no doubt about it. And we were also hoping as civil society that India will be able to put its ambitious renewable energy generation installed capacity of renewable energy in NDCs. They have not yet put it. India has a renewable energy target of 100 gigawatt by 2022, and it is expected to be increased 175. Sorry, and it is expected to be increased from 2022 to 2030 by another 270 gigawatt of renewable energy. But they are not bringing in the nationally determined contribution, and they are not bringing because they don't want to bring it in the preview of international community. And now COVID has actually had an impact because not availability of solar panels and all that, the renewable energy expansion has gone up. For example, almost 3 gigawatt of solar projects are on hold because they have missed the deadlines because 80% solar panels come from China.
Okay. Oh, then again, it's a tricky affair. 80% coming from China, and we may turn around and say, no, we are not going to take anything from China, and so from where this will come.
And knowing the sentiment between India and China nowadays,
that sentiment is running very strong right now. But the point is that on one side, when we are achieving this the goals of solar and other energy of non-fossil fuel energy, so to say, at the same time we are opening up our coal fields for digging out. So now the coal blocks are being given out to various companies for digging out. So that's not a good omen for India that they are now opening up the coal blocks. That is not a good omen, isn't it?
Indeed. I mean, I think because of COVID, we are again climbing the same dirty tree, which we all decided that we'll get down and we will plant a new tree to climb up. So I think, coal expansion has happened. Privatization of coal mine is on the cards. In fact, there is a world's second largest coal mine, coal reserves has been found in Birbhum, West Bengal, Jayanta, which India, both state and central government wants to start digging, which will be a bad news. And we certainly need some kind of global responsibility from India at this point of time.
Harjeet, it's really amazing because just now Sanjay mentioned about Birbhum coal block. It's a huge coal block, so to say, that's been claimed at least. Now, there's a catch-22 scenario. The central government, the state government, they are claiming once this coal block is open, thousands and thousands will get jobs and their socioeconomic improvement will be there. That's one part of it. And other side, it is going to impact huge on the local environment and also on the global environment. And I know people in that area who are actually trying to counter it. But again, the people who are supporting it, they are also a huge group. So this is a very tricky situation for the environmentalists and the climate kind of experts, how to marry this requirement, the socio-economic requirement, and also the environment requirement. But before I come and conclude with the Paris thing again, my small question, very quick response to all of you, that increasingly the world is seeing the impact of climate change. As we mentioned, all of us, the storms like Amphan, the storm like Bulbul, the Gati, the floods across South Asia. Bangladesh is having flood, India is having flood, and Pakistan is also having flood. So we are having floods everywhere. So are not and if you kind of expand it in the USA, we have seen so many climate emergencies. So it's not the politician, are not the politicians see the obvious linkage between this and that, or they are naive enough to just to concentrate on the smaller, narrow time zone to just think of their votes and everything. Very quick take from all. Let Harjeet started, then I'll go around. Harjeet?
No, it is indeed very painful, and it's a paradox that we are living with. But if policymakers are aware, it is something that we can go very well beyond. Let me quote what International Trade and Confederation puts it when they speak to the workers, even on these kind of tricky issues. You know, the slogan that they have is, "There are no jobs on a dead planet." And
absolutely.
How we need to connect with the workers, saying we are not creating jobs for you in a manner that we will see our planet dying. And that reality we are already facing, as you said, the kind of impacts that we have been seeing. And a concept that has become very popular over the last few years, but still remains in the international circle, and not many countries have started talking about it, is called just transition. We need to transition to greener economy, but we need to do it in a manner which is just, which is fair, and particularly which puts social justice at the heart of it. Now, India being a large economy, and we still have poor people who need to be taken out of poverty, and COVID has made things much more difficult. But that does not mean, as Sanjay was saying, to go backwards and start digging coal again. The world has moved on. We have seen how even the coal-fired power plants are going to be nothing but stranded assets. So we really need our policymakers to wake up, to also look at economics and to speak to the workers. And let's not play vote bank politics all the time. This is a time we have to educate workers, educate investors, industrialists, that we have to adopt greener pathways. And the world has moved on, and the economics is now with us on renewable energy and the new economies that we are talking about, which are much greener and cleaner.
Amar, what's your take on this? That the politicians are so they just can't see the obvious linkage in your country. What do you feel? They're so being paranoid about the politics and vote banks so that they can't look beyond. The same in your country, in my country, in every country, I think, across. Why the politicians are are the different species? They're not Homo sapiens sapiens, they're different species.
No, but I think that as to the other part of the world, South Asia has similar kind of the approach towards all these issues. Look, we all are the worst victims of climate change. This is the time that we should wake up and think about it. But surprisingly, politicians are not looking as we environmentalists are seeing it. And they have climate change is not finished, despite we are seeing different extreme weather events in our countries. But it's very surprised that politicians are not taking it seriously.
Okay, your voice is cracking a bit. Golam, Saab, what is it? Are they Homo sapiens politicians? Should be a variety of human beings?
I think it's difficult. Rather, I would echo with Sanjay and Harjeet. regarding the vote bank politics. And in Bangladesh, we have another issue as well. I mean, it is very difficult that when you see, 70% of the MPs are business magnate or businessman in Bangladesh parliament. So it's too much, political dominated, too much business oriented, and too much, I see, in some cases, transboundary cooperation in terms of this Rampal power plant is very high. I'm saying it to you guys. So this is we cannot really ignore. Yeah.
Very interesting point you raised. The politicians are doing transboundary cooperation to kill environment, but not the transboundary cooperation to survive environment. That's fascinating paradox. That's fascinating paradox. Absolutely.
Sanjay has something to say, I guess.
Yeah.
Sanjay?
No, I agree. I think the fact that this is the time when we need more sharing of resources, where we are protecting our resources, not willing to share within South Asia, but then we are willing to pollute South Asia for economical gains. I also want to add one more bit here, I think, which is important. It has been proven again and again that coal or any fossil fuel is dangerous. IPCC's various reports have made a very stronger case in that favor. And there have been some judiciary wins also on that basis. And it has killed human population, and so it is proven it's a threat to human population. Like nuclear has been a threat to human population. There is a non-proliferation treaty for nuclear. Similarly, I think it's time that civil society need to come together and start demanding a non-proliferation treaty for fossil fuels. Unless we have that understanding within among ourselves, this race to kill will continue. On the leadership, I would say there are two kinds of leadership. One is the reactive leadership, and what we are seeing within South Asia is more a reactive leadership to a situation that has come, not a proactive leadership, which is normally based on the long-term gains.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I see more of an inactive leadership rather than both reactive and proactive. Now I have 2-3 minutes at my disposal. Let's start with very quickly, and I'll wind up with Harjeet. Is that what is in store? Glasgow is about a year from now, if everything goes right, hopefully. So another 12, 13 months. What do we expect from Glasgow? Do you feel globally, generally, but more specifically for your country, that Glasgow will be kind of a ray of hope, or it will be a business as usual like Copenhagen and all that faltered? What you feel, Golam sir?
You're asking me
very quickly, very briefly.
Okay, I think I would be optimistic because I'm hoping that. I'm hoping that there will be something happening on the ambitious target. So this is 2020. So we agreed that after 5 years, before 5 years we decided on this. So there must be some ambitious target. Yeah. Yeah. So
ambitious target, but at the same time, ground level implementation of the previous target needs to start. So that is something more important in this post-COVID scenario. You're optimistic on both counts. Amar, very quickly. What about the previous target on ground implementation, and what about the new target? Quickly, what's your take, Amar? Amar, we can't hear you. Can you hear me? Well, you fix it up. I can hear you, Sanjay. Amar, go ahead. I asked. Amar, can you hear me?
Okay.
Am I audible, Amar?
I think there's a lag.
I think there's some network issues. Sanjay, what you very quickly or take?
Hello. I'll tell you very quickly. Let's be optimistic for Glasgow because of the positive development in EU and China.
Okay.
They have set the ball rolling in the right direction. We do hope they'll be able to drag laggard countries along with them also.
But one day we have to discuss.
Not keeping any hope.
One day we have to discuss, Sanjay, post-COVID and post-India-China, what will happen to the basic and everything. That's, I think, another fascinating thing. Harjeet, final take yours. What do you feel is going to probably happen in Glasgow? Are we going to be really more action-oriented Glasgow, or it will be business as usual with more promises, as we saw in Madrid also, that issues being dug up and then taken a lot of time, and then finally nothing happened on ground? What's you feel in Glasgow? Will COVID push the politician, or will COVID drag the politician? What will happen?
Well, I share the optimism that Golam and Sanjay had, but I'll put up my own rider. I'm cautiously optimistic. There are some good signs from EU and China, as Sanjay also said. I'm also keeping a keen eye on what happens in the US, even if Joe Biden, and it's pretty likely at this juncture, but his call is also not that ambitious. I think we need a lot more stronger civil society movement and citizens movement in the US to push US in its own ambition, but also meet its global responsibility of providing finance. And this is where I feel that COVID has made things very difficult, particularly on climate finance. While as we all are developing countries, we are talking about transition, but let's never forget, on one hand, we need to put pressure on our own countries, but we also need international finance to help our governments who still have a lot of poor people to be taken out of poverty. They need international support. So I think both the things are required. We putting pressure on our politicians, but also making sure that the global system is working to help developing countries adopt that greener pathway and also tackle climate impacts.
Thank you. I think it's a fascinating discussion for the last 40 minutes or so. But what all of them shared, the kind of optimism, as Harjeet kind of qualified it with, say, that kind of a cautious optimism. I think we are all optimists because the world has to survive. As of now, we don't have any planet B to go lock, stock, and barrel and survive. We have to live on this in this world, and I don't see that running away is the option. A migration from a small area can be an option, but it can't be an option for the globe. The globe cannot run away. So Glasgow is coming 13 months down the line, but South Asia being one of the most vulnerable in climate action, and as you said, that COVID has complicated things. Definitely, COVID has complicated things. But Harjeet and Sanjay and Golam, I think it's a challenge also on the experts like you, or the civil society activists, the experts. Also, I think the media as well, to find a way out.
Yeah.
To find a way out. We need to find a way out because the world has to survive. And if the world has to survive, the climate change has to be taken head on. The climate action has to be implemented. So with these words, and this is the first episode, we definitely will keep on discussing in the future episodes as well. With all this, we conclude here. Thank you everybody from the Climate Channel, from the Plural, who are co-hosting this program. Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great to connect again.